All right. Hello, how's everybody doing this evening? Good. Y'all all look good. So good to see y'all. Give yourselves a hand for looking good tonight. Looking good, looking amazing. All right. Well, I'm excited and I think we are ready to get started. If y'all are just coming in, come have a seat. Y'all ain't missed nothing yet. We about to get to the good meat and the gravy. So, yeah. All right. Well, first off, because we are on stolen land and we want to acknowledge that, we will start off with our land acknowledgement. Both the College of St. Benedict and St. John's University occupies the original homelands of the Dakota and Anishinaabe peoples. We honor, respect, and acknowledge the indigenous forcibly removed from this territory whose connection remains today. St. Benedict's Monastery and St. John's Abbey previously operated boarding schools for Native children. Now students, faculty, and staff are working to repair relationships with our Native Nation neighbors. All right. Let me see. Cool. So this is where I talk to you for a bit about why this series was started. So, Am I Not a Student? Tonight's event exposes others to Black student leaders and their experience with tokenism at a predominantly white institution. This event serves as the start of a series created by the Black Student Union called Behind the Brick Walls. This series will serve as a yearly opportunity for the Black student population at CSB plus SJU to share their experiences, creativity, and leadership with the student body. I came up with this idea and this specific event because I feel that as Black students here at St. Ben's and St. John's, we add so much to the experience. We add so much of our creativity, our intellectuality, our mindset, and our heart, and we just give it to these institutions. Because we love and we care for our institutions, of course. And I really wanted to give Black students the opportunity to just come and express themselves in whatever way that would be. This year, I really wanted to highlight the voices of Black student leaders, which we have on our panel tonight to just raise awareness of things that, we have to go through as Black students at a PWI. So, yeah. I'm now going to introduce give me the word, Jade. Moderators, thank you, amazing. That's why they're moderators. First, we have our moderator, Destiny Wilcox. Destiny is currently a sophomore at the College of St. Benedict studying communications and Japanese. She is the event co-coordinator for the Black Student Union. And then we have our next moderator, Jade Berry. Jade is currently a sophomore at the College of St. Benedict studying environmental studies and psychology. She is the public relations officer for the Black Student Union. So I want y'all to give a warm welcome and a hand to Jade Berry and Destiny Wilcox.
Thank you. All right, so we're gonna start our event off talking about what tokenism is, and then we're gonna give a few examples before we get into our panel discussion. So right here, what is tokenism? So the definition that we found for what tokenism is something that a person or organization does that seems to support or help a group of people who are treated unfairly in society, such as giving a member of that group an important public position, but which is not meant to make changes that would help the group of people in a lasting way.
An example of tokenism would be if someone being asked to present at a conference, but it's always on being a person of that identity in that field rather than their work standing on its own. For instance, being a Black woman in tech.
Why is tokenism harmful? Being the only one or one of the few people who share your identities can feel isolating. You may not have colleagues to turn to for support and validation when microaggressions or aggressions occur.
Think of someone being the only person of color in an all-white workplace and the only woman in a conference room full of men. This visibility can come with scrutiny and pressure to represent an entire group. Naturally, people who are tokens often experience stress and depression.
They might even be tempted to overwork in order to try to be a good representative that identify the group, which can also lead to exhaustion, guilt, shame, and burnout. Now we will be introducing our panelists. Our first panelist is Andronique Roll. Andronique Denaya Roll is a senior theology major in pre-medicine from the Bahamas. She is the president of the St. Vincent, the Archipelago Caribbean Association co-chair, and a health promotion student coordinator for Stop at Buzz, and the Dream Team. One of her self-tasked missions is to ensure that everyone feels as if they belong here, regardless of circumstance.
Our next panelist is Duran Thompson. Duran Thompson is currently a senior at St. John's University, pursuing his bachelor's in accounting and finance with a minor in communications, serving as the president of the St. John Senate, former vice president of finance of Delta Sigma Pi, treasurer of the Archipelago Club Association, a residential assistant, an entrepreneur, scholars, and opera workshop performer. He's excited to see what's next as he enters this new chapter of his life. He aims to set an example for others, for other young people to rise. With all this in mind, he still aspires for greatness. With no doubt, he is on the path to having a successful future.
Elijah Brown is a junior studying in educational media and computer science. He's from the Bronx, New York, and he is not in class. New York, when he's not in class. He is an executive producer and director of Johnny Benny Campus News, event coordinator for AfroSTEM, and on the videography team of Extending the Link.
Christiana Wallace is a junior from the Bahamas studying applied physics with pre-engineering. She is the president of AfroSTEM, junior co-chair of Archipelago Caribbean Association, and the newest member of the VSU. She is the event co-coordinator for the Black Student Union. She aspires to become an aerospace and mechanical engineer and one daily work at NASA.
Our last panelist is Dee Khalil. Dee Khalil is currently a sophomore at St. John's University, studying Africana Studies with an emphasis in Black history. He is the president of Black Student Union, a peer academic coach for the study in Alcuin, and an advisory board member for Q+. We will now continue on to our panel discussion. Okay. Our first question is, since you've been at CSB SJU, what has been your experience with tokenism? So I guess we could start, whoever wants to start first, and you guys can pick up a mic and go down the line.
Okay, hi everyone. I would say from like my very first semester here, my experience with tokenism has mainly been in the classroom. When a professor would ask a certain question, and it's a question along the lines of race, everyone would just look at me, even if they're not talking about my race. And I'm normally, probably like 8 times out of 10, the only person of color in my class, just to put that out there. Students would look at me to, I guess, answer the question, or even if people know the answer, like I know I'm not the only one in the class who knows the answer, but I am expected to answer the question, or I am expected to speak on behalf of a certain group.
Yeah, I think to add on that too, I feel like my first experience with tokenism really stemmed from my first experience with CSB SJU when I went on the fly-in for international students. So when I went on the fly-in and we had all this admission stuff going on, I believe like the people that they introduced me to was mainly POC persons. So I had a different perspective. I felt like the school was way more diverse when I was a first year, before I even attended the institution itself. And because of that, it was definitely not that way. It was quite an interesting experience, but I really wish they gave us more of the outlook of CSBSU entirely, instead of like giving us like this false narrative, if that makes sense.
Okay, good night. I feel like I've had many experiences with tokenism, only when I came to this school, of course, because I am from the Bahamas, a predominantly black place. So, yeah, like, I really didn't know what it was at first. Like, I didn't know they was using me. For instance, it would be like when you see photographers, like, they look at you like you's the goal on the street. Like, they have to get a picture with you, and it's like, oh my gosh. So, like, that would be really annoying, because it's like, all these people in here, why you can come to me and like, I busy eating? Like, come on, like, leave me alone. But that's because like, we make up a small percentage on this campus, and I feel like they try and promote us to make the outside picture painted that, oh, well, we are this mixed cultural school, when we really aren't. And we struggle daily to keep those students of color who are already here.
Yeah, I would just have to harp on that point. I would say I'm from the Bronx, so I grew up around a mixed group of people, but I can't quite remember being a token or feeling like a token person before I came to CSB SJU. I would notice that sometimes in class, anytime the topic would come to race or queerness or any other aspect of my identity, the duty of the professor would always kind of fall on me. Like, I would have conversations in the class that I really shouldn't have, because I'm not being paid. I'm a student in this environment. And then I would be expected to handle these conversations in a way that were both equitable to the students who were there, but also mentally healthy for myself. What else was I gonna say on that? Yeah, yeah, that's it.
All right, well, just elaborating on the points that were already made. You know, I came from South LA, so I was definitely not used to the Minnesota nice or any of that. I am blunt, you know, and I'll tell it like it is, and I don't feel like that's the case here sometimes. I'm gonna say that especially with our admissions tour, I always said that my admissions director needs a raise. It needs to be the VP or something, because he did a really good job of, you know, advertising the school and, you know, following through in that mission of what CSB plus SJU stood for. I feel like my first experience with tokenism really came during Black History Month, when, you know, I started getting like, emails from marketing and communications, and they're like, "Oh, we want to feature you on the CSB plus SJU Instagram." And I was like, "Okay, but just because it's like History Month, or do you really want to know what we're doing?" And that was my first experience with it. Obviously, I didn't know what to name it then because I was not used to that. I went to a school predominantly Black and Latino. So, and I grew up in neighborhoods with that same demographic, so I didn't really experience it that much until I got here. And honestly, I was just like, it's an opportunity to advertise what BSA was originally before we turned it to BSU, and I just took that opportunity to do that. And I made sure to mention some of the things that we were doing, although that's not what they asked for. But I made sure to mention some of the things that we were doing for Black History Month and what we were doing as a club at that time. So, yeah, I think that was my first experience. Should I just, okay. Is that only working well? Oh,
Okay, our second question. How has intersectionality impacted your experience with tokenism?
I could begin first with this one. So again, being a Bohemian, coming from predominantly Black country, it's a completely different experience when I came to Minnesota. So I believe my perspective is kind of skewed because, again, I grew up in a predominantly Black country, only surrounded by Black people. So I never really knew much about the subtle microaggressions, the tokenism aspects. I didn't really know how that impacted me until I talked to my African American friends. And they were really the ones that really helped guide me to see like what was tokenism, what was wrong, what people were saying to me and all this stuff. And it's just kind of upsetting because I think that they didn't really prepare us for this, the school like itself. We just had to experience it for our own. And because of that, I feel like people could take advantage of us. And it's really unfortunate with what happened, but as I progressed through my college experience, I got to learn more, I got to experience more, especially when you add the aspect of Minnesota nice on top of the tokenizing like aspects. It's really hard trying to distinguish like what people are genuine and what people are just trying to use you for whatever aspect they want to use you for. So yeah, that's my intersectionality when it comes to that, but it's just it's really upsetting.
So from my perspective, I'm from the Bahamas as well, so I'm a Bahamian. I'm seen as a Black student on campus. I am also a woman. And so my experience with tokenism in this aspect is like, oh, that's Andronique, she's the Senate president, let her do it. Oh, that's Andronique, she's in charge of ACA, let her do it. And it's just, to me, it feels as if like the aspects of my intersectionality and who I am is just like oppression on top of oppression on top of oppression. And so because of these different aspects of my personality, I'm always like singled out to represent this group as it relates to that part of my identity. And I feel as if that kind of puts more on me, like that makes the burden more, because I not only have to represent people who are women, but I also have to represent people who are Black. I have to represent the Bahamians. It's just, it becomes like so much where it's like just pulling, like it feels like you're getting pulled in all sorts of different directions. But then you think, this is a part of me, so I should be able, so you feel as if you're obligated to speak on behalf of this group because you have the power to, but that's not always the case.
Okay. Yeah. I 100% agree to that. I mean, with me more so, I would see it in classes, like she said, like with me probably being the only female in class, black female at that, and from the Bahamas, it's like when different discussions come up in class or group projects or just certain things just relating to culture, race, all that sort of stuff, it's like, oh, you can do it or you can speak on it or, because it's you, you can understand it better. And I mean, I can, but it's like like you have to show some effort, like you do can, like you want to learn, oh, okay, I can speak on this, tell me more about it. It's like, oh, you got this, yeah, okay, on their phone. And it's like, okay, I guess I do have to get this because I mean it's my grade. And it does become exhausting, and then you do get really frustrated about it because it's like, dang, like I have to talk about this, and then at the same time I feel like no one's listening to me. Like I'm talking about it, but that's the problem. I shouldn't be the only person talking about this. So yeah, it happens every week in my life. It's a lot, but
Yeah, I want to quickly add to that point too, though. With when I was a first year and we had FYS, which is the first year seminar, we were going over the book for civil rights movement. I'd never learned about the civil rights movement in my high school duration from the Bahamas, and the class really thought I was very educated or like knew a lot what was going on, and I didn't. And it was just the assumptions to think that, oh, like the black students have to kind of like carry that knowledge or kind of carry that burden of like always having to speak up and like answer. Like it's very frustrating. And like being from the Bahamas and just being a Bahamian, it's just, it's annoying. Yeah, I just want to make sure I add that.
Yeah, once again, I agree with that point 100%. It feels like you're not really being valued as a whole person. You're just being valued for whatever you can be at that moment. So like if I'm in a classroom and we're having a conversation, I'm in a lot of ed classes, so I talk a lot about like identity as it relates back to kids. So like if I'm in a class and we're talking about what it's like to be a black student, suddenly I'm the professor. And I just have to know everything about the topic. And it really makes me think like, well, what am I here for if I apparently already know everything about what we're talking about? How is this fair to me?
I have to censor what I'm going to say because there are specific people in the room that could, use the information against me. But I mean, I just feel like with a lot of systems here at CSB plus SJU, they try to capitalize off of our experiences and our identities. So I'm Black and LGBTQ. So I think those two identities I see are most in play when, doing applications or, sitting in classes. And to like Andronique's point of like always having to be the one to represent that group is very, very exhausting because I'm not the only person in that group, even though I may be the only person in the room who not represents, but who is a part of that group. I don't represent, those types of, not those types, but those, those identities or those cultures. And I don't feel that it is our job, honestly, to do so. And, anytime that I give a workshop or anytime I do a training or, I do panels or I do, events like these, I always let the audience or, those who are engaged in, wanting to learn more, that it is not up to, the marginalized person to tell you about their marginalization, to tell you about the discrimination and the oppression that they receive on a daily basis. I'm Black and queer, 24/7, 7 days a week, including the next 2 days. So, I don't think that is our job to do so. And like I said, I feel like that because of, our intersecting identities or because of intersectionality, a lot of places of higher ed can capitalize off of that. So that you have situations like tokenism where they're bringing these people into the room and they're not doing anything to make sure things are equitable or inclusive for that group. Something like that happened in the 70s when they had brought Black students on campus and they didn't have any resources for them during that time. And it's kind of the same thing now. It's kind of when you walk on the campus and you have that culture shock of like, okay, how do I get through microaggressions? How do I differentiate between something that's outward and, in your face? And, how do I respond to it as someone who most likely is not from this state, because, I'm from California or somewhere from the Bahamas. Like, how do I navigate that as an out-of-state student? Because you don't want to lose your scholarships. You don't want to lose your place here at St. Vincent St. John's, and then you also don't want to get blacklisted, but that's what I'm going to say about that issue.
Okay. Our next question is, are tokenism and inclusivity complementary to each other? Why or why not?
Okay, I will start again. Are they complementary to each other? No. Tokenism and inclusivity are definitely two different things, and they don't belong in the same room. Inclusivity is including the people and making sure that everybody is represented at the table. But also, I have to say this, without inclusivity, and this is why DEIJ is important, without inclusivity, you don't have diversity and equity. Without equity, you don't have diversity and inclusion. Without diversity, you don't really have inclusion and equity, do you? So you have to make sure that all of those are present, especially in workplaces and places like St. Vincent, St. John's, making sure that, the people who are not in the majority have that representation, are at the table, are helping to make decisions, are having their inputs heard. So no, I don't think that they belong in the same room. I think they are definitely two different things.
You got okay.
Yeah, to add to that, I absolutely agree. They are not similar at all. Being in an inclusive environment is feeling like you belong in that environment. And I think that for me personally, just being involved with the Bahamian community and having that shift to inside of Minnesota culture and CSBSU culture, it was initially kind of hard, but I'm really glad I had something to back me up personally. And I was eventually able to branch out, explore more, see the different types of people that are offered on our campus. Not every person is bad, of course. You just have to understand the different layers, and it's not really our job to educate other people, but sometimes, like, as Anshik was saying earlier, like, sometimes we feel obligated that we do need to teach people that they shouldn't be doing certain things or saying certain things, like, of that sort. So when it comes to tokenism, I want to touch on that definition because it's very, I feel like a lot of people don't really know what it is. And I'm really glad that people are getting the spotlight on, well, you all are getting the knowledge about it today, because tokenism is going to come in the form of like saying, oh, I have a Bahamian friend. I've heard that very often, just from my peers. Just like parading that, oh, they know this person from this country. Like, it shouldn't matter. You should be parading that you know this person because they're a good person. Like, we shouldn't be saying that based on like wherever you are geographically came from. And just being Bahamian as well, just look at us. Like, we look like average black people. So we shouldn't be that shouldn't be our main distinguishable like character. It should be our like actual personalities. So that's also been something that has been like kind of hard too, because people just automatically assume that, oh, like they're African American, they could explain these certain issues and they could do this and do that and the third, but we have so much extra layers that come to us. So I think that's one thing that I will also mention.
Yeah, I agree with them. I do feel like tokenism and being inclusive, they are total opposites. They're on different sides of not even the room, the building. But I feel like those who tokenize us try and conceal it to be inclusivity. So, so a lot of times they do stuff, they promote this, they say, oh, we're inclusive, we're doing this. We have this amount of black students, here they are, pictures all over, pictures all over that admissions page, pictures all over the websites. But it's like, yeah, that's not inclusivity. You just using us and then kicking us to the curb. So, I mean, it's sad, it happens, and a lot of times we see it, and I feel like we do need to be aware and we do need to look at things deeper. And as a Black student, a lot of times we may be happy to see, like, oh, the school or just society around us is doing stuff, and it may be there to support us, but a lot of times they don't care about us. They care about their image. They care about how is the world going to see them. Okay, I guess if I help Black students, I'll be seen as this great person. I'm not racist. I'm not all of this, but it's like, you're using us. You're not doing it for the greater good. You're not doing it for us. You're doing it for you. So no, they're not the same.
Okay, just really quickly, I want to go back to something that Duran has said. I think that I probably gave off this impression too, but I have to correct myself. Tokenization also is not just something that happens in workplaces or institutions like St. Ben's and St. John's, but also happens in your relationships and friendships. And I don't think a lot of people realize that. I mean, I even see it on campus, and I become very discouraged because I'm a person who's comfortable in my Blackness. I wouldn't trade anything for it. Black is beautiful, it's lovely, it's luxury, it's something that's one of a kind. And I personally don't have a problem viewing myself in, my Blackness. And I think a lot of students of color have that problem, whether that not just be about race, but also their ethnic background or also their cultural backgrounds. It's kind of like an erasure type of situation. And I think, I have to be really careful how I word this. I think St. Ben's and St. John's plays into that. I think that it feeds into that culture. We have to change ourselves so that we can fit the dynamic of the universities when that is totally not possible. You're asking us to change ourselves without changing yourself. And I think we're in a place now where it's 2022, about to be 2023, and we've come to a place or at a stopping point where we're now having to look and realize that some of these systems that we have are not working, are not benefiting those who are marginalized and those who are oppressed. And I think we're looking at those systems, and a lot of these institutions like St. Ben's and St. John's are just doing quick fixes. And they're trying to find a temporary solution so that they can get it out the way or sweep it under the rug, and that continuously happens over and over again. And that also, that system that keeps happening over and over again is a part of the reason why we have tokenization, because we don't know how to support POCs on campus, or we don't have the resources to have them adapt to what type of environment they will be. Because tokenization, racism, homophobia, transphobia is not just within these four walls, but is also outside. So just wanted to capitalize on that.
Really good points. I agree wholeheartedly with Cristiano. And I would say tokenism and inclusion definitely on different ends, because tokenism is a part of exclusion. So what tokenism does is it takes you out of the midst and it puts the spotlight on you, because now you have to speak on your experiences as a Black student, your experience as a woman, your experience as whatever it is. And the reason that you're speaking is not because of like what you've went through, how much you know. The reason you're speaking is because you're Black. And that's why tokenism could never be a part of inclusion. Because in inclusion, everyone is the same. It's equitable. In tokenism, no, this person is getting the spotlight because it makes us look good. So let's say in like 2020, we all saw it with like the rise of the Black Lives Matter movement in response to the murder of George Floyd. We saw how many companies just started slapping Black Lives Matter on anything, everything. Wow. We saw Band-Aids now come in all colors. We saw this, we saw that. And it's all performative. It's all a part of tokenism. And it never truly addresses the problem. It never tries to fix the systems. It's just like, here, this is what you get. We're gonna make it look like we're helping. We're gonna make it look like we're including you. When like in reality, that's just how it looks. That's not how it feels. And so being a token, you would always feel like Christiana said, like you're being used. Like you're just an object, you're just a thing, you're not a person. And so I would say tokenism, inclusivity, shouldn't even be in the same sentence.
And just add like one more point. The system is like rigged, like very hard, because Black students have something to prove. We overcompensate a lot for our institution. And because of that, we are in these like high positions, in these roles, and then these media persons and PR target us because we're in these roles. So it's like a cycle, and it's hard to break that cycle because we overcompensate so much. Like, it's really hard to explain, but it's just weird.
So just adding another point. So last week there was a panel for Festival of Cultures, and I see Dr. Nash here. Dr. Nash did research on the 102-year relationship between the Bahamas and CSBSJU. And I'm a senior, just like to give background. And that was like the first time I heard about such amazing things that Bahamian Now alums did. They gave so much to this school. But we don't know that because no one said anything. No one celebrates them. It's like everything is just whitewashed, in my opinion, because these amazing students of colors, maybe they're highlighted in the Multicultural Center, and that's about it.
Yeah, just to touch on that a little bit more, it always feels like you have to bring yourself to the table if you want to even be remembered in CSBSJU history. Like, think about, I don't know, the CEO of Best Buy. She went here X amount of years ago, I can't remember her name, but you hear about that very often, even though I can't remember her name, sorry. But every time you hear about like a Bahamian student's accomplishment, it has to come from a Bahamian student. It has to come from the Multicultural Center. And that's not really inclusion. That's just kind of like, it's tokenism in a different form. That's all I gotta say on that. Oh, sorry.
Okay, our next question. Do you think tokenism of Black students will end in higher education? Why or why not? Do you think tokenism of Black students will end in higher education? Why or why not?
Hell no. They make too much money off of people of color and especially students of color, and also students of various backgrounds that are not white heterosexual male standards. So I don't think that higher ed is ever going to get rid of tokenism because they capitalize too much off of it. Do I think that students like ourselves sitting at this table and sitting in this room are going to start calling that out and hopefully see a change? Maybe long in the future of how universities advertise, their student population? I think so. I think that we're at a point where these institutions they're losing people, and now they have to be honest about the situations that they are in. And I think that's what's going to hold them accountable. I think right now it's just a runaround of desperation of trying to find students, but I think there's going to be a point in time where they're going to have to answer for some of the decisions that they've made over the last couple of years. Because like I said, in the 70s, it was about the same exact story. And just specifically speaking about African Americans, you bring them from all these different states, you bring them here, and you expect them to fully immerse themselves and to change who they are to be more palatable, more easier for white folks to chew. And I don't think that that's the case anymore. And I think now having events like these and having students such as yourselves and sitting at this table and in this room are going to start calling that out. And we're going to start being the change and seeing how we can be honest about our histories and how we are doing better to make sure that we are having Black and brown students at the table, but also making sure that we're listening. We're being intentional about the decisions that we make that may affect them, that may harm them, or may come off on the wrong way, you know? So I think that's going to be the change.
Go from there. Okay, so I'm an optimist, and I would love to say yes, but every day I'm reminded that the answer is no. Like students like us, students like y'all, want to be a part of the conversation, and we constantly strive to make it more inclusive, to make it a more inclusive environment. But we have like a 4-year tenure here. We're all going to graduate, and we're going to leave, and unless the administration and the school continues that work, nothing's ever going to happen.
Because I got to be salaried if y'all want me to stay a couple extra years.
My answer to that is no as well. And it's just an opinion because the question asks if I think. My answer is no. Simply because I think this was said before, it's so profitable to have students of color as like tokens. I think it would stop if maybe schools are fully diversified. And the reason I say that is because this is a predominantly white institution. So let's say, for example, it wasn't a predominantly white institution. It was just an institution that had probably, let's say, equal parts of students from different races, just to be like, let's say this is a fantasy world, right? And so that is the only way I can see like higher education from the predominantly white side not having students of color as tokens. So minority serving institutions serve minority students. And so they don't see their students as tokens, they see their students as people. So if predominantly white institutions more so took the mindset of minority serving institutions, then maybe, just maybe, it wouldn't be a thing in higher education.
For me, I feel like, honestly, when you think about it, like, we're in this situation because, I don't want to put it like this, but this is the only way I can think of right now. They bought us. That sounds kind of bad. But when you think about it, a lot of us came here. Why? Because tuition was cheap. They give you these scholarships. Why? Because they want us here. So, I mean, that should have been a red flag from you, sorry, but you know, you're thinking about mommy money, you think about daddy money, you think about what's affordable, but at the same time, what you'll benefit from. So yes, a lot of times, and I stated this last week, despite everything, the college is a really good college. They produce superstars. They produce very important people, very successful people. A CEO of Best Buy, who Elijah don't know her name, but like they produce these people. So yes, we come here because of this. And at the same time, most of these people who they produce are white. And they're black too, but we only know about the white ones. We don't know about the black ones. But we have to find out about them when Professor Nash does her research, or when we have to go digging deep down in the archives and go, like, it should be there. Just how the black students are promoted on the CSBS plus SJU page, this history, these important facts should be here. So they grab us at the beginning at our most vulnerable states with the money and the cash and the scholarship and this. And then when you come here, tuition going up $3,000 every year. You're dealing with all these things. Like, they scam us. Like, they swing us. So It won't end because they will continue this cycle. They will continue getting us where we're vulnerable and painting this picture that, oh, yes, we are an inclusive school and we care about everyone and you get a scholarship, everybody get a scholarship, and then junior year, you trying to figure out how your tuition gone up by 6,000, like, but that's the sad truth and gotta live through it. Got to see it through, my boy.
Yeah, I could 100% agree with that experience. When I came here as a freshman, before that, when I came for my fly-in weekend, shout out to Ashton, who was my host, I remember a completely different experience than what I got. I remember seeing all these, because the fly-ins they're predominantly students of color, they're obviously students from out of state. So you see a different CSBSU, you see a highly curated one, but then when you get here, you get an entirely different experience.
Yeah, and just add on top of that point too, like, it's not gonna change. Like, it's too profitable. Like, companies have been doing this for years, and at the end of the day, our school is basically like a business. And using my analytical and accounting skills, like, I want to compare this almost to like the toy brand Barbie. So Barbies used to be just slender white women with blonde hair, blue eyes. Now they have a lot of representation for Barbies in different sizes, different shades, different religions, different careers. And with that company, it blew up. Like, they have so much different representation that people eat that up. Because seeing representation is super important. And that's kind of what the institutions, and a lot of institutions around the world are gonna be doing for as long as it can be. So even though I wanna be optimistic that it wouldn't be as tokenizing as it will be, it probably won't work out that way because it just makes more money in that sense. But I think representation is really important. But there's a fine line between representation for those communities and tokenism. So they need to just be very mindful of that.
Yeah, and adding on to what Elijah said, I didn't have a fly-in because of COVID, so like I had to live through Haley telling me, what was going on. But I did experience a fly-in. I was a host, and we realized this, like, okay, you had the date set for the gala, you had these dates, and oh my gosh, all of a sudden admissions want to bring in these students at this time, like, you know what you're doing. Like, you want to paint this picture that, oh, yes, we have this. We have this like once a year, but we have to do more. But they just throwing them in there at this point because, yeah, this good. They can see this. They're going to see all these people in one place and want to come here. So like I said, like, they probably could do it again next year, but don't tell them I tell y'all. But you will continuously see this pattern because they're thinking that this is what is right, this is how we profit, and they make money off of us.
Yeah, there are like a couple of points I want to like go back to. Yeah, I feel completely scammed because the fly-in was definitely a different experience than what it actually was when I got here. I'm gonna even just say that the flight was totally different, and getting to St. Vincent St. John's was just an experience when I had gotten here for first year. Like, the fly-in, you get on the airplane, that was like one of my few times of riding an airplane, so I was excited for the free trip. And, they put us in this nice hotel, and, we have a rental car and all this lovely stuff. We get to campus, we're greeted with smiles by our admissions directors, and it's just, you feel like it's this warm, loving place. And although we did not see a lot of people, which I should have thought was I didn't think it was sketchy at the time because it was COVID. So I was like, people are probably in their dorms or whatever. And honestly, I only had like the experiences of like, my classmates that eventually came here to be Johnny's. And, their experience was like totally different, but also they run in different circles and crowds, which I also had to realize. And I feel like that definitely the minority experience is different for racial backgrounds. So the Black experience is definitely going to be different than the Latino experience. Took a while to get there, but eventually realized that. And, greeted with all these smiles, and like I said, you feel welcomed. And at the end of the trip, I was like, I'm coming to St. John's and St. Ben's. Like, this is, like, they giving me good money. Like, I was like, I'm all set. And then when I got from my flight, this is how I knew stuff was about to go down. I almost cursed. But I knew something was going to go down because once I had gotten here, there was a situation with the groom driver, and I almost got left at the airport. And I should have known that that was going to be the downfall of everything. Like I finally got here after that experience, and that was my first taste of passive aggressiveness of, I'm not going to tell you how angry I am, but I'm angry at you. And I was just like, okay. That was my first experience with it. I remember being in the dorm by myself. I'm like, it's hot. I don't have my parents with me. Like, this is like my first time like being on my own. I'm like, I'm freaking out. I'm scared. Like, it was just a terrible experience when I first got in here. And it progressively, got better as I got involved. But then once you get involved, it's just like a downward slope, because then you're working with different type of people with different type of mindsets and, different places that they are at intellectually. And so I always say that was kind of like I knew it was going to be bad with the introduction, and I just knew that it was not going to, be as great as I thought it was. And here we are, a year later, and it is not, I feel like it's kind of the same thing. And I just, when we got back to campus after the summer, I was just like, same old, same old. And that's what it was, the same old, nothing's changed. And I don't feel like that as an institution we are making the progress that we need to in this moment as of right now. Also, another thing I want to talk about is the alums, because I actually am doing a project in Dr. Nash's class about the Black Student Union in the 70s after the sit-in. And I remember one of the problems that I think I was having when I was emailing and reaching out specifically to Black alums, that they were either not responding, or from what I have heard from other people who have tried to reach out to them, they do not want to talk about CSB plus SJU because of how traumatized, or because of the experiences that they have had. And honestly, I just honestly shook my head, and I was like, I understand. Because why have to, graduate from all of that trauma and those experiences and then have to go back and relive it? So, I don't think that it's, we aren't finding Black alums. They don't want to come back because of the things that have happened. Yeah, that's just the points I wanted to.
Anything else? Okay. So our final question is, given your experience with these institutions, do you think that Black students should attend CSB SJU? And would you encourage prospective students of color to apply?
No. I would tell them, if they're a Black student, I would tell them, look for your nearest HBCU. If they're a student of any other color, I would say, look in a place where the people of your ethnicity is popular. Look where there are more people who look like you. And the reason I say that is because when you're here, you go through a lot of just being the one. Like, you walk into a classroom. You're that one student of color, surrounded by a sea of white. And for me, that adjustment was really big. But it's not just being the one and like looking around. It's when you come, you have to get used to the microaggressions. You have to get used to people not wanting to sit next to you on the link. You have to get used to being a token if you wanna, I don't know, get involved, you wanna do all of these things, and then you have to try to get used to the pressure that is put on you because you're a student of color doing all of these things at a predominantly white institution. So I would tell them, go where you are appreciated.
I feel I have different perspectives on this. So I feel like if you are here, you're a junior, sophomore, you have a lot going on, you know, down in your credits, however you want to put it, you know, you're making progress and you kind of adjust, I would say stay. Because when you look at it, well, personally for me, I feel like I could have left a long time ago and transferred somewhere, but I stayed because of the school, but not the school. So, so the professors in the physics department, great people. Like, I love them with all my heart. Like, they make my life a lot easier than I know that it would have been if I had went somewhere else, pursuing what I want to do. Yeah, no, I couldn't do it. But because of the professors, because of the community, because the community, it's not great. There's room for improvement. But the little circle that you have when you find genuine people, when you find people just like yourself, when you find people who have the same morals and values of you as you, the same goals, it makes it worth being here. So it's the small things that I think that keeps us here, that keeps me here, that keeps me going. It's the money, because it's still cheap. Even though they increased tuition, it's still cheaper than other schools. And like I said, it's the faculty, it's the staff, it's the success rate. But if you are a younger student, you're still fresh here, you really don't have nothing yet, you know, still learning the ins and outs of this place, run. Don't look back, get out. Because I think that there's better out there, but right now, this is what we have. We have to work with it, and we have to learn how to love it. But that's kind of sad, but it is what it is. And I kind of like to look at things as the goods and the bads. So when you think about it, it's like, okay, I've been to PWI for 4 years, graduated from here. I know a lot of us, sometimes the 4 years is the end, we go to grad school. If you didn't like it, I know for me, I want to go to an HBCU when I'm pursuing my master's, for sure. And then you think of, not every place is perfect. So yes, this is what we have to deal with. I'm not saying that we should accept it. I'm not saying that it's good. But this is still CSB, SJU. This is happening all around us. This is happening in America. So at times, I am grateful that I'm here, because I think, what if I went to an HBCU, graduated, you know, all rainbows, lollipops, and giggles and laughs, and then I came out into the real world and I experienced this. So it's, when you look at it, I am very, very thankful that I'm experiencing it now. I'm experiencing it with people who I love. I'm experiencing it with people who I care about, and we're learning the ins and outs of this. But, you know, it's preparing us. Like, that's sad to say, but when you look on the bright side of it, at least we are getting to know what this is. At least we are understanding it. So when we get out there and we go and pursue our career, we kind of got this. Like, yeah, like you'll be like, I all too familiar with this. You can't swing me, you can't fool me. So it's character development. So, I mean, while we here, let's enjoy it. Let's build our character and become our best selves. But if you just get here, run.
Yeah, to echo the same thoughts as Christiana, if I had the opportunity to do it, to attend CSB SAU again, I would definitely would. And I say that because I've had a lot of great experiences here. Like, there were bad experiences, there were times where I did think about transferring, there were times where it got really hard, but at the end of the day, the people was one of the biggest factors that kept me at this institution. My close friends, the Johnny Benn alum system connections, just everybody, the Bahamian community was a huge factor that kept me at this institution. And I think just being here, it teaches how the world works. Like, as Christiana was saying, like, this is how, unfortunately, how the world like is in today's society, and it's in every society for real. And it's up to us to make that change. It's up to us to call it out. It's up to us to keep people accountable. Would I encourage people to come here? I don't think I would necessarily say that. I will tell people my experience. I will tell them how much of a fun time I had, tell them the bad things I've experienced, the tokenizing things I've experienced, and I'm gonna let that person make that decision on their own. If they're willing to take that opportunity, take that risk. Everything is, there's a risk in everything that we do. So if they're willing to do that, go ahead. But my general experience with CSB SAU has been nothing but great opportunities, great people, and I really am not trying to be pessimistic. There are a lot of issues that people of color, black people on this campus experience. But I'm one of the people that like to see things with the glass half full. So I try to focus more on that aspect. So that's my answer for that question.
So funny story about this question. I want to say it was like last year around spring semester, a high school student actually reached out to me on Instagram, a student of color who was considering coming to CSB SJU. I opened it, I never answered it because I couldn't give them a good answer. I couldn't say yes or no because like everybody has said thousands of times, there are definitely days where I would say yes. We're going to a school that creates great leaders, but there are also days that I would say hell no, run, go in the opposite direction. Don't even know if that student's going here right now. He might even be in this room. But yeah, it's a question I can't answer because I go back and forth every day, every minute, every second.
I'm actually curious. I want to see if our moderators will want to answer this question. And then I'll close out with my statements and dismiss everybody. So I'm actually curious. So do you want to start, Event Coordinator Wilcox?
Okay, since you guys want my opinion, and fun fact, I was kicked off the panel, so this is my moment to shine. I think it depends on who the person is and like if I know them or not. Because I feel like if it's someone I know and they want to go here, then I would ask them, are they sure? Because I know I'll be here for them. And I know that they'll have a community here with us as the things that we're trying to do to change CSB SJU. But I also feel like I don't even want my loved ones to come here. So it's like a back and forth because like once I leave, I'm gone. So you're gonna have to go through it on your own. So I feel like on one hand, yes, because I'll be here for you. But on the other hand, no, because when the 4 years are up, I'm gone. So you're gonna have to go through that on your own. But I feel like we all have to go through our own trials and tribulations. And what BSU is trying to do for the school, I think is really great. I think that one day we can get to the point to where students on campus are seen as students and not just numbers, and that people are really respected here based on them and not based on their identities or their intersections. But as of right now, I would say no, and I would discourage, if someone asked me, I would discourage them from coming unless they're entirely sure about it. And then I would encourage them because I'm here.
Yes, we picking on UPR.
A few people actually already asked me this question before, some of my friends from back home. And I already told them, hell no, go look for HBCU or go to UB. But I just told them to just think about it because I told you how I experienced, what my experiences was and what I went through. If you decide to come here, that's on you. I gave my advice. I would say no, but if you really, really want to come here, I would say yes, because the little community you make yourself, because the CSBHA community does not exist. The community, we come here and we make ourselves and find our close friends that we can count on. That actually helps you stay here. Because if it wasn't for my close friends, I would have transferred to UB. But I would say they help a lot and that they get you through some of the stuff and they're there for you to vent too.
Can you give them a hand for sharing? They did an amazing job. So proud. I write on their coattails for real. They are the best members. All my executive board is amazing, and our new additions are amazing, but these two are amazing. So give them another hand for moderating really well tonight. The reason why I just want to close out with this statement is because I want to make one thing clear on tonight. I don't think any of us are, well, from what I've heard, is saying that this school is the worst place in the entire world. Am I right? Okay, so we're not saying that this is the worst place in the world. We're not saying that there are not good qualities about St. Ben's and St. John's. Like Christiana said, there is very much room for improvement. And I just feel like that's on all levels, administratively and also within our culture as students on campus. I feel like with that specific question, for me, I don't know. And I think you would appreciate this, Dr. Nash. I went to Ken Jones's office when I was asking him about my research, and I had asked him this question. And he was like, well, if they were a student like you, then I would recommend that they would go here. But if they weren't, I'd have, my reservations. And honestly, I hold kind of close to that statement when I think about this question. If you're someone who's like Christiana or Duran or Andronique or Elijah or Destiny or Jade or Emily, if you are a student like that and you want to get out there and be involved and try to change the community, I would suggest that you come here because this is the place for you if you are the social justice warrior. But if you're, just coming here for the experience, I tell them to run and, go to their HBCU or public university or another private college or university. Because I know from what I've experienced, I don't think no student should experience. I feel like the emotions that I've had and, the interactions and even the relationships, and, I just don't think that they have ended well or were, for me, I guess, if that makes sense. Just something I would have them think about, it takes a toll on your mental health. There are some days I don't want to get out of bed. But I'm here sitting with y'all, so that's a victory, right? But, there are just some days where, some of us don't want to get dressed and go to class. Or, just tired of being the only black person in the classroom. I'm not going to lie and say that I haven't tried to transfer. I did. And that did not go well because the University of Minnesota wanted $11,000 and CSB plus SJU is paying me to be here. So obviously I'm about to take the place I got the most money. But, I think also, which is kind of very, excuse my French, kind of shitty of the schools, is that like Christiana said, or someone made a point earlier, that, they kind of bring you here and you're just kind of like scammed. And then once you get here and you're like, damn, I want to leave, then the schools is like, well, you can leave, I dare you to. Because they know that, your credits won't transfer over. You won't get good financial aid at the institution that you're transferring from. Fun fact, if you transfer from a private university or public university, you will not get that much good of financial aid, which was something that I had learned over, the summer, which was really cool. Which was very heartbreaking. But you're kind of just stuck here and you're just like, damn, what a waste of money, or what a waste of time. And then you're just having to just navigate and try to get through it. But I have to agree with the points that were made. It's honestly the community that you have around you that make the experience I thank God for Jade and Destiny and their friendship, and so many other people in this room. I just thank God for their friendship, and literally, I don't know where I would be mentally or emotionally if it wasn't for them. And I feel like that's, I guess, the good quality of CSB plus SJU is that you do have people on campus that do care about you, that still love you and wants to see you do better. And I think that that's something that's important and something that we need in society. I also think that it is preparing us for the greater world above because although these 4 years are temporary, racism, misogyny, homophobia, transphobia is not. That is something that's throughout society wherever you go. And so I think that these institutions are, in a way, challenging us to make it through. In a way, I see it as a challenge of who can do it the best. And obviously, I'm winning because I'm a sophomore and I'm still here. But, I just think that we have to, we have to take it up as a challenge and be optimistic and, fight the fight. I know I had to bow out of a lot of things this weekend, a lot of the leadership positions and the things that I was doing because honestly it was just taking a huge toll on my mental health and my physical health. And I hate that I just got to the end of the semester and realizing that, but it's definitely it has made me exhausted. And I know something that I said that I was not going to do is make myself exhausted. So I think that we need to conserve our energy, and we need to keep fighting, and we need to keep going because it's super important. Just one more question for y'all. What do y'all promise as Black student leaders to do when you leave here today to make a change in our community? It can be from one small thing to just waking up. But what's something that y'all want to do? Y'all want me to go first since I'm asking? Okay. Something I promise that I will do, I will not stop advocating. And I think that for me, for a long time, and even my first semester, I was very, very depressed my first semester because I didn't feel like I was involved as much as I wanted to. Hence why I became BSA president my next semester. And I realize now in this moment, it doesn't matter about what position you have or where you are working or what you are doing. Advocacy is throughout your entire life. So I think one thing I promise, I know I promise, is to just keep advocating and to keep existing because that's something that we need now. We need more Black individuals, we need more LGBTQ individuals, we need more individuals in these spaces and in these places so that we can make adequate change. So that's something that I promise I'll do.
Well, I'm gonna do two things. One, I'm gonna do a promise to what I'm gonna do to enhance the community, and I'm gonna do a promise to myself. What I'm gonna do for the community is just continue to advocate, think about all the ways so we could switch over to inclusion. And then my commitment to myself from this moment on is just like calling it out. If I'm in a class and I'm the only Black student, the only queer student, only X student, and they ask me to speak on it, I don't know. I don't know what it's like to be Black. I don't know what you're talking about. Mm-hmm. Just, I'm not gonna talk about it anymore. I'm gonna make it the professor's duty who's being paid.
That's right.
The admissions, not the admissions, what are they called again?
Marketing, communications.
Faculty. I suck at words, I'm sorry. I'm gonna make it like, I hate words. I'm gonna make it the duty of the community that I'm a part of to include me.
Period.
I make a promise to do my very best. And in doing my very best, I will not only uplift the voices that are not being heard, but I will also uplift my own voice.
I feel like, I don't know, everyone is different. So I feel like I promise to just be strong for myself and encourage others to be strong because like Dee stated and everybody had probably stated, it takes a huge toll on you mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, everything. So I just promise like to be strong for myself, to be strong for others, and encourage others to don't give up and to just keep pushing, or if it's too much, walk away. Because sometimes, we can encourage others to stay here when, even though you're strong enough, others aren't. So to just be strong and do what's best for you.
Yeah, I promise to keep pushing, to keep going, to just continue to be my most authentic self in the process, whilst encouraging others and making sure that people are aware of like all the things that go on. I think awareness is one of the biggest things our society really needs to shed light and just have more visibility to these issues. And I promise just to keep doing the things that I love, and if in the process that gets me in all these leadership positions, so be it. I think that representation is super important. I hope to just inspire and be one of those people that little black boys like I was could see in the future.
All right, can you give these panelists a round of applause for tonight? They are amazing. I singled out each and every one of them. I was like, I need to be on this panel because y'all student leaders and y'all doing amazing things and people need to know about it. And I think that is so true. I just want to take this time, first off, to thank each and every one of y'all for being here on tonight. Give yourselves a hand for being on here as well. Thank y'all so much. Y'all are amazing. This event would not be successful without y'all present, so I really appreciate it. I thank the moderators for it tonight. I thank my wonderful executive board on tonight for helping with the scanning. Thank you, Marissa and Emily. Give them a hand for doing the heavy work. Thank you for all the faculty and staff that also came out tonight to listen to us. One thing I want to do right now, this is the same week that the Black Student Union in the 70s did their sit-in. And I think while I was doing my research, I feel that a lot of the things that the Black Student Union has asked for in the 70s has not come into fruition. I think that CSB plus SJU has they have pretty ways to go in order to fulfill those promises. And tonight we just also want to pay homage to them, our originators, our founders, those who have come before us, and just also honor and acknowledge them as we begin this week of the sit-in. I created this event and had it on this week to pay homage to them because we need to highlight Black student voices now. Thank y'all so much for coming. We are definitely breaking the brick walls at CSB plus SJU. We hope that y'all come again next year, and we hope that y'all continue to support the Black Student Union and their events. December 2nd is a roller skating party, so that's going to be pretty fun. More information coming out on that. Thank y'all so much. Y'all have a good rest of y'all evening, and thank you. Have a good night.